We live at the Everglades Club. It was 10 o'clock in the morning at the Everglades. A hangover spirit was evident by the very lack of conversation. Nothing could be heard but the sound of running water going into tubs. Our other places a little noisier. The inmates were beginning to stir. Mrs. Rich Pierce at number 13 always said it was the iodine in the air that made people so crazy in Palm Beach. She lay in her room surrounded with paper walls, wondering what in hell she could do next without losing her mind. She groaned when she heard her husband hoarsely whisper to Jasper's servant in the next room to bring him a straight gin and coffee for breakfast. She met her husband right after his graduation from Yale. And his personality plus his animal magnetism had swept her off her feet. She was back on her feet now, because his animal magnetism had swept her into nothing but debt. She was just finishing a glass of Eno's fruit salt when he opened the door and said, "Well, how's the old girl this morning? I suppose you went to Elsa Maxwell's party as somebody else last night and you picked the wrong person. So you feel like the devil. Well, it serves you right. I don't know why I married you anyway." You don't care how I feel. You don't care whether I'm bored to death listening to people who can't possibly tell me anything new. And I'm sure they're not the slightest bit interested in anything I have to say. I suppose you're going to the Seminole this morning and play 36 holes of golf, have dinner with the bloodhounds, and gamble all night and put me in the red for another 500. We'll have a good time. You'll have to run along now. Here comes Miss Oakes to give me my high colonic. 5 minutes after Rich Pierce left his wife, he telephoned Marjorie Paget and said, "Meet me at the Poinciana docks in 5 minutes. We're going boating." Just another name for it. 10 minutes later, Mrs. Rich Pierce called at the Breakers Hotel and spoke to Baron Upper. "Hello, Uppy, darling. This is Mrs. Rich Pierce. Get right into your tennis clothes because we're going to have several sets this morning, if you know what I mean, and I think you do." Now, the Baron and Mrs. Rich Pierce had many sets at the Everglades. Love sets. It might have been inside, it might have been out. No one knew, no one cared. At 3:45 in the afternoon, Rich Pierce and Marjorie Paget returned as they were coming along the walk. Jasper, his faithful servant, said, "Shh." "Damn it," said Rich Pierce, "is the Baron in there again?" "Well, here's $10. If anyone asks what I've gone, say that I've gone to Mrs. Stokesbury's." 5 minutes later, Mrs. Rich Pierce came out on the walk holding an old, tired Spalding racket. "Have they gone back to the boat, Jasper? If anyone asks what I've gone, say that I've gone to Mrs. Stokesbury's, too. Here's another $10. Why don't you go and take a ride for yourself in a wheelchair?" So Jasper went right off to Main Street and did what he always did every Friday afternoon. The next morning, everything was quiet at the Everglades. Nothing could be heard but the sound of running water going into tubs. Or other places a little noisier. A hangover spirit was evident by the very lack of conversation. As Mrs. Rich Pierce at number 13 always said, it was the iodine in the air that made people so crazy in Palm Beach.